Salutations everyone, and welcome to another Overwatch 2 video where today we're going to be talking about upcoming Season 6 changes. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, Season 5 was, well, it was a disaster. I feel like Season 5 was the worst season for competitive Overwatch so far. All the buffs and the nerfs that they made, none of them made any sense to me. And I think it reflected in the balance and the competitiveness and the overall feel of the game this season, which was a shame. I was really looking forward to this season. My girl Tracer was finally getting her mythic skin, and it was a really fun theme, and the hide and seek thing, all that stuff was awesome. But playing competitive really sucked this season, and it had to do with what they did last season, right? They nerfed Hanzo and Widow, right? Like, nerf Widow, she's got like, what, a 2% pick rate? Like, she's so niche and you know, whatever. She's still fine. She's still playable where she was playable. She was just barely playable. Hanzo got nerfed, you know, survived, fine, whatever. That's okay. Bastion was untouched, one of the best characters in the game. But we didn't see as much Bastion this season because they Giga buffed the Giga Chad, Soldier 76, for no reason. He was already a very strong, good pick, and we already knew what OP Soldier looks like in the beta. I made a video about it. I went like 48-1 or something on Route 66. Like, we saw what an unchecked Super Giga Soldier does, and on paper, this was a god-awful idea. Like, everybody knew it, but they still did it. And what happened? Terrible, terrible, terrible things. And we're only going to be seeing slight nerfs to that. We'll get there in a minute. We saw Tracer getting nerfed this season for no reason, and then they buffed everything that was strong against her. Magnetic Nade for Cassidy, that was a big buff. It deletes Tracer from the game because it hacks her. And it is also the only way to kill Sombra, who I'm showcasing in this game, which we'll get to in a bit. In fact, let's get to it right now, because Sombra is going to be a hot topic for a while, because from the onset, there was two characters that we knew had to get reworked for Overwatch 2 that just didn't. Sombra and Roadhog. Roadhog was going to be either way too strong by giving him way too many stats, or just be a throw pick because his kit does the same thing as it did in Overwatch 1. And that's what we got to see both, because Zarya dominated on launch, but when she got nerfed, people went to Roadhog, and he was super strong, and Kiriko, coming out the gate in her strongest form, was able to Suzu and really help him out. And then they nerfed Roadhog, and we never saw him again because, again, he's a throw pick. Please stop picking Roadhog. He has like a 0% win chance in every single season since he got nerfed in the games that I've been in. Whether it's on my team or the enemy team, the Roadhog team just loses. Sombra, on the other hand, just way too strong, especially in this season. I absolutely farmed with her. Eliminations per death, highest of all the characters. Solo elims per minute was higher than my Widowmaker, which I don't know the last time I had a character who had a higher solo elims per minute than per 10 minutes than Widowmaker, but she did. She eclipsed it easily. She's just way too strong. Her gun just way too much damage when you compare it to, say, Tracer. Doesn't do nearly as much damage. And Sombra can hack her, delete her from the game. Cassidy can hack her, delete her from the game. Don't know why we needed two hackers in the game, but hey, that's what we have right now. But the Translocator, super strong. EMP, one of the best things in the game, no matter how you cut it, right? So, Sombra is getting slight changes in the upcoming season, Season 6. We don't know what they are. But Aaron Keller did confirm that she will receive a new ability as part of her rework in the following season, Season 7. So we don't know what that is. We got to see a picture of some sort of new device. We don't know what it does. So it would not be beneficial to even speculate on it right now. But she's just way too strong. And from Bronze all the way to Overwatch League, where she's super duper meta. And I don't know about you guys, but I've watched Overwatch League since the beginning. And for me, the most boring metas, bar none, to watch is when Sombra and Reaper and Mei are meta. And people aren't picking Reaper right now, granted, but and Mei isn't picked all the time, but she's picked a decent amount of the time, depending on the map, right? But Sombra is kind of like insta-pick almost everywhere for the last couple of stages right now, you know, even more so recently. Way too strong, and it's boring to watch. The Sombra gameplay is not fun to watch. But let's get two other characters. Mercy is getting a damage boost nerf. It's going to go from a 30% damage boost to a 25% damage boost. We don't know where the breakpoints are going to be, how much that's going to help when it comes to Sojourn railgun headshots, which saw a big resurgence this past season. Sojourn, especially with the Mercy Pocket, definitely an S tier character. But Mercy, okay, here's the thing. Tank's competitive balance is not great right now. At least it's not as good as it had been at points in the past. Mercy compounds that by being so strong that Mercy makes any tank viable as long as the enemy tank doesn't have a Mercy and you do have a Mercy. Doomfist with a Mercy, you're good. Orisa with a Mercy, you're good. Roadhog, you're still probably throwing, sorry. But any tank that you might think is not a good matchup against the enemy tank or is not very consistent or good on this map or necessarily good consistently, Mercy is so strong that she fixes that math because she has perma uptime. The only character in the game that has perma uptime. She never has to reload her heals, never has to reload her damage boost. She's the only character that can damage boost. It's super duper effective, super strong. It's so good that Mercy isn't even considered a quote unquote main support anymore. The Baptiste or somebody will heal the tank, and Mercy damage boosts the DPS, which makes things very difficult to balance DPS wise, right? And Mercy getting a small nerf to this, I don't know if it's going to make a change. To be honest, we'll have to kind of wait and see how this pans out. But right, she had that nerf to her Guardian Angel, and they kept changing it and buffing it, nerfing it, buffing it, nerfing it. Now she's no longer diveable. She's no longer a character that you can jump on like she was in a couple of seasons ago. So she's never going to die. She has perma uptime. She has the best ability in the entire game to resurrect somebody back from the dead, which is on a 30-second cooldown. It's super consistent, and you're not going to stop her from doing it the vast majority of the time. Even if you have proper counters in place, it's just not going to work out. And she has a good ultimate, right? So I don't think it's going to affect her. She's still probably going to be the best support, if not the best character in the entire game, which has been the case for the majority of Overwatch 1's existence, let alone Overwatch 2. She's just insanely strong right now, and they are taking a baby step towards reeling that back. Although you're not going to see her in Overwatch League, I do know that, but in competitive, if they have a Mercy and you don't, GG's, go next. Lifeweaver, who I felt like the buffs finally made up for his bad launch, and he's finally usable. Granted, I only play him when we have a Zarya or an Orisa, a character that's always going to be taking damage that doesn't have a shield, and he can pump out a lot of healing for quite some time, and he's really not that vulnerable, and they're even giving him a buff to that part of his kit, his survivability, converting some of his health into shields, and they're upping the healing from his rejuvenating dash, his self-peel, that outside of, going on your own platform, which can hurt you sometimes, but is mostly a bit of an escape. And now they're focusing on, I think, the weakest part of his kit, his ultimate. I think maybe the worst in the entire game, easily the worst support ultimate. It can't do anything, right? It's on paper, it seems like it should be a response ultimate, like dropping the beat or transcendence, but it can't do that because it doesn't give you a bunch of healing. It doesn't give you consistent healing. It's just bit of healing, few seconds, bit of healing, few seconds. But like it blocks line of sight, and maybe you can trap somebody, right? That was kind of like its best use. But now the ultimate healing will be converted into overhealth. And if this makes it better, which can't make it worse because it's already the worst, I think he will finally be in a good spot because they will focus on the one thing that made him super duper weak. Kiriko, after getting nerfed, is finally getting a buff, albeit a small niche one. When her Suzu cleanses a negative effect, so getting hacked, getting burned, getting discorded, it will do an additional burst of healing, and they're removing the knockback. Knockback kills with the Suzu wasn't something I think most people ever tried to do on purpose, so this really doesn't affect her as it is a quote-unquote technical nerf. But this is a small buff, and I think it's a nice one. Think about one of your squishies getting hit by dynamite or molten core. Now, instead of just cleansing that burn or that big burst of damage to where, like the damage is already done, you're just healing, so you're stopping them from dying in the next nanosecond, but they're still one shot. Now it will do a little bit of heals, especially since the healing of Fuda is not going to get to them right after the Suzu quick enough usually to save, say, again, a squishy character getting burned or targeted, discorded, hacked, something like that. So I think this is a nice change, especially since she's not fantastic right now. You don't see her a lot in Overwatch League, and you don't really see her at the higher levels or even the mid levels. She's kind of good in some circumstances, but I think this is a nice small buff. And speaking of buffs, Cassidy's gigantic buff for the 5th season in a row, they've realized this grenade still is way too strong. No matter what version they're on of this grenade, it's just way too strong. So they are nerfing the max travel time, which is the smallest nerf they can give it, but it's still going to hack you, so that's great. Soldier and his Giga buff is getting a slight nerf. The damage reduction to the healing rockets, probably putting it back where it used to be. I don't know who asked for it to be buffed. It's been fine for 8 years. I think it's still fine where it was. Didn't need to be buffed. And they're slightly increasing the cost of his ultimate. We saw what a broken soldier can do in the beta. Yowza. Stop buffing the best characters in the game, please. Mei got buffed. Why? One of the best characters. Symmetra got buffs. Don't know why. Tracer got nerfed. I don't know why, because they buffed everything that was strong against her. She can't get on a Symmetra, because Symmetra can kill her with her 10 trillion damage. Mei can freeze and shoot her, crystallize her, whatever the effect that they call the buff that they gave her. And Cassidy can instantly delete her from the game because it hacks her. Sombra also hacks her. So I don't know why they felt they needed to nerf Tracer. She's gone from the face of the earth outside of top 500 in Overwatch League, right? Diva and Winston are still missing, aren't getting any buffs. Bastion is again untouched, so yay, another season for him to dominate, along with Soldier now, with neither of them, I think, getting necessary nerfs that might be needed. Zarya and Orisa stonks are up, and Orisa, by the way, is also getting a buff. Her Fortify will now grant 125 bonus health, and the start of her damage fall-off will be extended. Again, her damage got nerfed for absolutely no reason, and she fell off the face of the earth. And now they are hopefully giving it back, but also buffing her Fortify, which it might be too much. It might be. Her stonks are going up right now, along with Zarya, characters that can have really strong damage mitigation up times. As long as they get healed, if they can get double pockets, they can absolutely run through a team, more so Zarya. Better ult, better damage, and less vulnerable, can't get antied if you have a bubble, things like that. And Torbjorn. We couldn't go through a season without a strong character getting stronger. Torbjorn is getting a buff to the fire rate of his primary weapon and is getting a faster weapon swap. Again, don't know who was asking for this, but yes, one of the best characters in the game is getting buffed because Symmetra, Mei, and Soldier getting buffed last season wasn't enough. We're only slightly nerfing one of those buffs, and Torbjorn is getting a buff. So there you have it. Symmetra not getting touched, Bastion not getting touched, Soldier barely getting touched, and we're getting a new support. So maybe that makes everything okay. I don't know. Hopefully she's great. Hopefully she's playable. She'll at the very least be better than Lifeweaver was at launch, right? They've kind of promised us that at this point, and Lifeweaver is now in an okay spot. So hopes up for Season 6 to be better than Season 5, because Season 5 kind of sucked. Not gonna lie.